So the match finished Nottingham Forest 2, Luton 2. But what are the key 5 things we can take away from this game? And there's more than 5. Welcome to your analysis. Okay, so in this video, we're going to cover off the 5 key talking points from yesterday's game, from Cooper substitutions to Boly being thrown under the bus to where can we improve going forward. And you guys were asking for a poll on Cooper in, Cooper out yesterday. And as this is your channel, we've chucked it up on the community tab. So make sure you vote. Look, the whole point of this channel is to get your views in, how you're feeling. You can put a comment in on there. Let us know what your thoughts are on the game. And do you think Cooper will be the man to take us forward? But let's jump into the video. All right, so something I've been saying for a really long time, and something I've been noticing about Cooper and his tactics and his approach to games, is that when it comes to playing the big 6 teams or the top 8 teams, whatever the breakdown these days is in the Premier League, he actually finds it easier, because I think he goes into those games with no pressure. Because if we're to win, absolute, scenes. If we draw, it's a good hard fought out draw. And if you lose, it's the case of, well, we were expected to lose. And therefore, I think this is Cooper's comfort zone currently. Why? Because he can go in there playing the tactics that he prefers to play, which is low block tactics, which is defensively minded football. And when he does that, you can get results. Everyone knows it doesn't take a tactical genius to know that if you're playing a Man City or an Arsenal or one of the big teams, that if you're going to get something out of them, you're going to have to be compact at the back. You're going to have to ride your luck a little and hope for maybe 1 or 2 counterattacks. And you're just going to have to hope you convert the chances that come. And that's where I think he's in his comfort zone. Where I've been saying he's struggling and is becoming more and more apparent is on those teams either on par with us or below us, where, especially if we're at home, we're required to dominate the game, create the chances, take the game to them. And he hasn't been able to break these teams down. Okay, so let's move on to the thing that, I'm not going to lie to you guys, probably angered me more than the actual result. And that was the post-match interview itself from Steve Cooper. Was he protecting himself, or was he spinning it? And does he think we as fans are stupid? When he was asked whether or not those substitutions changed the game, he just flat out said no, it did not do anything. We'll play a clip for you guys now on that.
But I wouldn't say that changed the game. What changed the game was their first goal.
And this for me, look, how can I best describe this? Any person who's in a managerial position, something that Dino said, and I completely agree, the buck will always stop with you. If I'm in a managerial position and, some of my staff members mess up, then I, as a manager, should be taking responsibility for that. Whether or not they did it behind my back, whether or not I knew about it or not, it doesn't matter. It's the fact that it comes underneath you. That's one scenario. Now, if I'm the one who does something incorrect as a manager, and for me to almost then go and ignore the fact that I've made that mistake, I find that completely disingenuous. I would expect, and I said this in the player ratings, that if Cooper came out in his post-match and said, you know what, I messed up on those substitutions, I thought we should lock it down for a 2-0 victory. In hindsight, it did not work. Those changes are on me, and I will learn going forward. His usual rhetoric, blah, blah, blah. I would have found that more palatable than him coming out and honestly being deluded in the fact that he said that those substitutions didn't change the game. I don't think there is a single Forest fan, and I'm probably like tarring everyone with the same brush here. Maybe some do agree with what he said, but I think the majority will not agree with that sentiment. And everyone could see, doesn't matter if you've watched football for 5 minutes or 50 years, you can see that those substitutions ripping out the spine of that team 100% cost us that game. A few people have said, well, if Aurier hadn't ducked the free kick in the first place, then we would have won 2-0. That's not the point here. The point is we were put in a position of weakness because of the changes he made. And for me, shirking that responsibility is a huge, huge no-no and a massive red flag. And then it's this next bit that really wound me up on Boly.
Yeah, well, Willy, to be fair, Willy said that you know, Ibrahim not long been back in the country, and you know, and the flight and the timing. We had, you know, like, listen, there's no excuse. Don't get me wrong, but
I'm sorry, but he has completely and utterly chucked Boly under the bus there. And he decided to pick our most consistent player this season to chuck under the bus. And for me, that is not what a manager should do. Look, let's grant him that maybe Boly was feeling tired. By the way, Boly didn't play in international duty. He sat and warmed the bench. So if you're telling me that Boly was knackered going to South Africa, whose time difference from the UK is 1 hour, and I'm pretty sure Boly wouldn't have flown Ryanair to get there and back, and you're going to tell me that Boly was jet lagged, and that the jet lag only kicks in 78 minutes into a game, is beyond beggar's belief. And the fact that he's put that on Boly and a couple of others, but he named Boly in particular, is pathetic. I'm sorry, I've got to call it as it is. Okay, so I want to move on and talk about the captaincy now. And look, I said a lot of angry things about Worrell yesterday. It is what it is. I'm not going to take him back. It's in the heat of the moment. But with Worrell and the captaincy in particular, most people would now agree with what FFTV has been saying for over a year, is that Worrell isn't, well, let's be polite here. He's not our first choice centre-back, nor does he make up the first choice centre-back pairing. I would say he's in the third choice of centre-back pairings at a push. But this isn't specifically about Worrell. This is now about the captaincy of Nottingham Forest. Because this is starting to smell a lot like what we saw at Manchester United when Maguire was the captain of the club last season, but he wasn't getting any game time. And we're getting this now at Nottingham Forest. Worrell is looking like he's playing less games than he is actually playing. So why is he still the club captain? If Cooper's plans are to keep Worrell out of the team, then I would actually consider changing captaincy. If he wants to be a captain off the field, that's absolutely fine. Cooper has a senior leadership team anyway, and Worrell can lead that, not a problem. He can do what Lingard did last season, get the pom-poms out and cheerlead from the sidelines. That's fine. But when it comes to being on the pitch, we need a captain, we need a leader. And there are plenty of candidates out there. I'd like to ask you guys though, if we were to change captain, one, do you agree? And secondly, who would be your choice of captain if we were to do it? But for me, this change needs to happen because you have to have leaders. Excuse me. You have to have leaders on the pitch. But what's your guys' take on Worrell and the captaincy? Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, so let's move on and talk about the attacking, well, the lack of attacking options Forest currently have up front. We now know that Callum Hudson-Odoi is out for 6 weeks. We know Origi is out as well, but should be back sooner. We know that Taiwo's still out. And that leaves us with the attacking options, realistically, if you're not going to include Aguilera, of Morgan Gibbs-White, Chris Wood, and Elanga. And that's it. That is our 3 attacking options. God forbid any one of those gets injured. We do not have enough strength and depth up front to rely on 3 players to do this whole thing. Now, Chris Wood, yes, he scored 2 goals yesterday, but I'm sorry, I'm not accepting the argument that he's strong enough to be that leader on the pitch and to, you know, carry us through games where it's tight, the way we've seen Taiwo do on many occasions over the last 6 to 8 months. Chris Wood isn't it. This is nothing against Chris Wood. I'm just calling what I see on the pitch. I know a lot of you thought he had a good performance yesterday, but I'll remind you, a lot of you wanted him subbed off at half time. And this comes back to a few things that happened in the summer. Scarpa going to Olympiacos. I know you guys hate it when I talk about Scarpa, but why get rid of him when we are struggling for numbers in there? Dennis, who actually scored a lot of goals last season in comparison to the time he got on the pitch, being chucked out on loan as well in the summer because Cooper didn't really fancy him. These are now options that could have helped us in our current situation and our current injury problems up front. And yeah, Origi as well. Look, he hasn't settled in. Was he the right signing? Time will tell. But the problem is we recruited too many at the back. And I'm not against that. I'm not against that because I like what we've done with Omar Bamadeli, with Murillo. We're kind of future-proofing ourselves. But at the cost of attacking, sometimes the balance wasn't quite right. Maybe we can afford to bring in any more players. Maybe these were the only players available. But strength and depth now up front is seriously going to cause us some problems if Taiwo's going to be out still for a couple more weeks. If Callum Hudson-Odoi is out for 6 weeks at least, as Cooper mentioned yesterday. This is really the problem right now. And what do you guys think about it? Okay, so let's move on and talk about the City ground itself. And the City ground is flat. And this, for me, is not on the fans. There's been a lot of talk about, oh, the fans need to be the ones, you know, creating the atmosphere that we had last season. The fans have got to make it into a fortress, etc. Doesn't quite work like that in football. Last year was, you know, the party season, the jubilation season that we were back in the Premier League and everyone was really happy and excited. And you could sense that in the atmosphere. Now we're a year on. We're in the Premier League still. And expectation has risen. And the point here is, it's the players and the management that need to give the fans something to be excited and cheering about on the pitch. That's how it works traditionally. Even at the City ground, that's how it's worked before last year. So it works across all other Premier League grounds. So to almost be pointing the finger at the fans, and this isn't Cooper or anything, I'm talking about the general kind of consensus, probably fan chat in general. You got a lot of fans saying, we need to try harder, we need to do this. Yes, it helps. Of course it does. It does, but it's not on the fans, is my point, to generate a reason for the atmosphere. It needs to come now from the players. We helped get them over the line in loads of games last season. But right now, the fans will react to good performances, big strong tackles, something like that, that really gets the crowd going. And that's generally how it works in football. Look, just a quick reminder, we do have a poll on Steve Cooper. Now, before people kind of lash out at us, say, why are you doing it? I'll just remind you, this is a fan channel and your opinions are the opinions that are important. So we want to see how the fans are feeling about Steve Cooper, because one, you guys were asking for it in the stream yesterday, and two, this is your channel and your platform. So make sure you go and vote on it. It's in the community tab on the homepage of FFTV. Looking forward to reading your comments on this video. Let me know how you feel about everything that we've discussed on here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next video, and come on you Reds.